Hello, everybody. This is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs encounters video. While I'm continuing to do your suggestions, I thought I would mix this one in here since people keep asking for a lot more of these alien and UFO videos. So this one has to do with an encounter that occurred there on the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit called Alien Encounters. A little bit of a caveat though, a little forewarning. There's definitely some red flags associated with part of the story involving it basically happening after a quote unquote acid trip. So there's going to be some hesitation with regards to this being 100% just true, just verified, because who knows, one of those kind of trips can definitely help change a lot of things afterward. And so, again, take it with a grain of salt, but I'm going to present it here as is, give my own thoughts on opinions on it afterward, and then see what you think as well. But it comes from a user by the name of cheap_fig4137. They titled theirs as Seeking Knowledgeable Feedback for a Personal Experience. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. And again, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on there too. So here's what they stated. By the way, the comments on this particular encounter too also mention some of those red flags. So definitely you'll see what I mean here in just a few moments. So here's what they stated. This is a bit lengthy. Embarrassingly, somehow it's never occurred to me to find a platform that would allow me to tell this story to a community that could appreciate and hopefully help me interpret it for as long as I've been verbally telling it to people, at least until yesterday. This story is from the summer of 2012. I would have been 19 turning 20. Let me start by saying coincidentally that this happened on my first acid trip. Please don't let that stop you from following through here. I live in rural South Mississippi. A few days prior to this happening, I'd bought 5 hits of acid. One for myself, the rest for my friends. We had all kinds of drugs here that admittedly we fooled around with too much, but acid wasn't something we'd ever been able to get before. I was working at a sawmill here and still living at my parents' house. My mom took a day to go do her rounds in Jackson to see her doctors. She's always had this chronic pain. It was a beautiful day. I had the house to myself and I couldn't wait to try Lucy. Obviously, I was unaware of what I was getting myself into, and I told my boss I had a headache and went home to drop. You don't need the details of the whole trip, but needless to say, it got bad a couple of hours in, and I started to panic. At the time, my parents both worked like night shift. They had a huge bed with a memory foam mattress, a window AC unit to keep the room cool, and some blackout curtains to help them sleep no matter what time of day it was. I attempted to go get comfortable there and let the terror I was feeling pass. I am not claiming this to be a visual I saw outright. This was a vision in my mind's eye, with my eyes closed in pitch darkness, and vivid enough that the details have never once changed to this day when recounting my experience. And so, with my eyes closed, this is what I saw. I can only assume that this was me. I could see a neck down point of view of someone wearing a black suit of a material that looked like black spandex, body fully covered, hands and all. I was on a semi-reclined metal seat, reflective chrome finish, shaped like a chair in a dentist office, but minimalist. Around the wrists, there were restraints, one on each side, made of the same chrome-looking material, with fluorescent green light emitting from the inside of the cuffs, circling each respective wrist. The walls of the room are built like a graviton ride at a fair. The bottom panels slant up lightly inward, meeting the top panels slanting inwardly down in the middle. The angles appeared similar to the way jewel stones are cut. The room was rounded, but shaped in a way similar to an octagon. The walls were coated in a dark, matte black, rubbery-looking substance. Bottom to top, the wall panels were covered in circular impressions, spaced slightly and perfectly apart, each with 3 small circle impressions in a row in the center of each. These larger impressions are around the size of golf balls, inner impressions the size of dimes, or a bit smaller, you get the idea. The floor was black as well, but smooth. The only light I could see was the green light emitting from the restraints and a giant blank bright white screen in the front of the chair at the front wall of the chamber, extending from the floor to the ceiling on the wall, like a curved screen you'd see today, but at least inset into the wall itself. Beside the chair were two figures standing side by side. Black outfits head to toe, similar to the outfit of the subject on the table, me, I guess, but they wore black helmets similar to motorcycle helmets worn by people that ride crotch rockets. These figures stood easily 9 to 10 feet tall. They were watching the screen. I remember it so vividly that I saw the reflections of the screen in the shields on their helmets. I was terrified and drenched in a cold sweat. My heart was pounding out of my chest. The whole experience happened at the speed of a glimpse. I was so shaken, I called a friend and begged him to come pick me up, that I was out of my mind and afraid. Before he picked me up, I flushed the rest of Lucy I had. I've never forgotten it, and even though I can still take a mushroom trip from time to time, I've never been able to convince myself to try acid again, even though all of my closest friends are now experienced psychonauts. Can somebody please give me some feedback? Then that's it. That's everything that the user cheap underscore fig 4137 mentioned in their encounter. Let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. For starters, you see that big red flag, right? The one I was mentioning at the beginning. And now that you've heard this, you know exactly what I'm referring to. This was this user's very first acid trip. One can't help but have that circling the entire story with whatever they were describing, from that chrome looking metal on the chair to the bottom panels to the way those walls had those rounded shapes on them too, to even the figures that were standing next to the user themselves, the reflection, the floor being just pitch black, that giant white screen, all of those details. One can't help but wonder if that was truly just an experience from that acid trip, if it was just the mind going someplace else when it comes to that. The fact that this user stated also, second big red flag, was that this was an encounter, a recounting of an experience that this user had in their mind. So it wasn't necessarily something happening right up front. They even stated, with my eyes closed, this is what I saw. And they also stated this was a vision in my mind's eye. So in other words, this was not happening, at least one would think, like when it comes to it being in real time, real place, real environment, like right in front of the user, right there, just like it would be anything else in this world. No, this definitely seemed like it was just happening within their mind itself. And that just, again, ties into the idea that this could be nothing more than an acid trip. And then the fact that no one else had any kind of other similar experience, maybe those other friends that were taking the acid trip later on and so on. No one else, I guess there's usual telltale signs of, hey, I saw a UFO flying nearby, or what had happened, you were gone for several hours, that type of stuff that you normally see and hear with other UFO encounters or alien encounters. None of that seemed to happen here too. Also, it seemed like the user just snapped out of it really quick as soon as they saw the reflection on the helmets associated with these alien beings. That's when they seemed to just wake up. They stated that they were terrified, drenched in a cold sweat, and then they decided to pick up, call their friend to have him pick up, and so on. So I don't know. This is definitely tilting to me more towards just being in that type of environment. There's also this other angle. I've talked about these before. One of my favorite videos, actually, one of my top 10 videos that I've done, those DMT elves. I'll include the link for it below in case you haven't had a chance to see it. That got a good number of views, and to this day, people still comment on it as well. And in it, it's another set of beings that are encountered only on a special type of trip. Like, once again, involving similar type of scenario, taking some kind of drug, in this case DMT, and then it forces them to be able to go and have that screen taken away from the user, so where they now can see beyond it, and then they see these things, whatever these things are, that exist almost in like another parallel universe, something that's still with us, but not at the same time. But it causes them to be able to see, hear, and feel them, and so on. And that only happens during that type of trip, too. So I'll include the link below in case you haven't had a chance to see it. But it instantly reminded me of that as well. Maybe these are similar type beings, too. Maybe this is a similar circumstance. They're there, but they're not there at the same time. But let me know what you guys think. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.